There you go.
All right, folks, back at Legacy Studios. Eaton Park, Center Township, the place for smiles. Going to be a big night. Going to get my grub on. Got a little wedding soup, little chicken noodle. As we used to say back in the day, manja mange. Now, you know, we had planned to do the 2 videos, which we are going to tonight, but I ran into, via his email and a few text messages back and forth, my longtime friend, former congressman, and no one served this region better than Jason Altmaier. Of course, Mr. Altmaier at one time lobbyist UPMC, spent some time recently floored in the healthcare industry, but he's got a book coming out. The release is October 3rd, Dead Center, How Political Polarization Divided America and What We Can Do About It. Former Congressman, my friend, Jason Altmaier. Now listen, Mr. Altmaier, timing is everything, and I must tell you, I'm in for Mike Pintek tomorrow. We got a lot of guests, including a man that we were just talking about you the other night on the radio, head of the polling center at Franklin and Marshall, Dr. Terry Madonna. You always dead center, right down the middle, and you know, there's always been that comparison of the old hardline Democrat and now 2 conservative Republicans, and obviously what's happening with our president and his own party. So everybody's just wondering, when will we get back to the business of just being a politician and doing what's right for the country and constituents and not worrying even so much about bipartisan politics, but just voting your conscience? And that really is a lot about what I got to believe you're about, thus this upcoming book. You will be with me on the radio October the 2nd at 10 p.m., the night before the book grand celebration. Of course, Dead Center is the name of that book. So talk to me. It must have been so frustrating for you through the years of being in government and for what you're seeing now, that had to be one of the reasons why you wrote this book.
It is, and it's great to talk to you again, Rob. And the underlying issue is most of America are just normal folks living their lives, not thinking about politics. They wake up and they wonder what activity their kid has that night, what their work schedule looks like, who their sports team is going to play this weekend. They are not thinking about what their congressman is doing in Washington. And the people who do think about that, who live and breathe it and wake up every day dying to get involved in politics, and they want to talk about it and live and breathe it, those are the folks who vote in elections and work on campaigns and contribute to campaigns. And it frustrates the folks in middle America, the normal folks, that we don't have folks in Washington who are anything but on the extremes. And the question I get asked most when I go out and I speak about these things is, why is there so much partisanship in Washington? And the answer is pretty simple. It's because we elect partisans. The system is designed to elect and protect people on the extremes. And what I talk about in my book is we need to find ways to get more people from the center involved in politics, both in running for office, but also just participating in the political process, so that we can elect more people from the ideological center to serve in the Congress. And having been in that position myself, I can tell you that's not an easy place to be in the current political environment. So that's what we need to do for the country, is move away from where we have people for whom politics is a game, for whom their ideology comes first, and get back to the days when we used to have people that could work together, to compromise, to get things done. And that's what we're missing right now in the Congress and in the country.
Well, let me be one of the first, and I'm sure many will agree, you got a lot done as a congressman in the district that I call home. That district now being taken care of, and in a great way, by Congressman Keith Rothfuss as well. 2 guys who really care about what's happening in our country. You being a Democrat, him being a Republican. But, you know, I have no future plans to run for any office. Hopefully in the next couple of years, I'll be thinking a beach with my name on it. But I got to tell you, I'm a registered Democrat. I voted for Hillary Clinton, but I've really been on the bandwagon of Donald Trump. He's made it a little tough of late, but I want to get people back to work, and that's something that you always talked about. But gerrymandering, money in politics, partisan media, when did all this stuff start to happen? And did you see it happening when you were in Congress?
Absolutely. And what's driving polarization is the combination of those issues. And the fundamental difference that is the biggest issue we have to resolve is getting more people politically active, more people to vote. Because, as I've said, the people who are the most politically active are the people who are on the extremes. And we have to find a way, similarly, to open up our elections and make them more fair in a way that they're not closed primaries where only people on the extremes show up to determine who the candidates are going to be on the fall ballot. And if you look at what some other states have done, like California, where they have a completely open primary where all of the candidates are in the same election, and the top two, regardless of party affiliation, go on to the general election, that type of system forces candidates to appeal to voters across the ideological spectrum. Instead of just appealing to their base and the extreme in their party, they have to appeal to people in the center and even people in the other party. And the result in states that have tried that is the candidates themselves, and even people who were incumbents with extreme voting records, they've moderated their tone and they've moderated their record because they know they have to appeal to a wider constituency. And when you do that, when you're electing people that are going to think more about the entire population that they serve instead of just the extremes in their party, you're a lot better off as a country, which is what's most important, but you're going to get a lot more people from the center that are going to serve us in the Congress.
Book released October 3rd, with me on the radio October 2nd at 10 p.m. The great Jason Altmeyer joining us tonight here at Legacy Studios. The book, Dead Center, How to Politically Polarize Divided America and What We Can Do About It, former Congressman Jason Altmeyer. Jason, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you everything that's happening, and of course the big story today in Barcelona, the recent happenings in Charlottesville. You have to have an opinion on some of these things, so just some of your thoughts in our closing moments.
Well, the most unfortunate part is what happened today in Barcelona. Is that type of thing now happens so frequently that I feel like we're almost getting immune to the story. And it's a horrific, tragic event. And we need to find a way to make sure that people understand, these are obviously real people and real lives that are being impacted all over the world. And this is something that we do as a country. We have an interest as Americans in what's happening all across the world. And it's just a horrific circumstance that you can't walk down the street in really any country in the world and not have that thought in your mind that something like that could happen. And one of the things I do talk about in the book is when something like that happens in America. I open up my book and I talk about the Pulse shooting that happened in Orlando last year.
Right.
And that's the kind of event that used to bring the country together in a shared sense of grief where people would put partisanship aside. And what you see now, and you even see it around the rhetoric with Barcelona today, and you certainly saw it with what's happening in Charlottesville, what happened over the weekend, is now people use those tragic events for political advantage. They position for political gain, they point fingers, they cast blame, they try to figure out a way that they can get their side to have an advantage. And it's just so opposite of what we're supposed to be as a country and so different to the way it has been for most of our lifetimes and most of the lifetime of this country. And we have to find a way to get back to those days where we all come together and support people that are in need instead of using it for political advantage.
Look for it shortly in Barnes & Nobles and Amazon.com. Dead Center, How Political Polarization Divided America and What We Can Do About It, former Congressman Jason Altmeyer. Jason, thank you so much for the late notice and the opportunity tonight, and we'll talk to you in a couple of months, okay?
Glad to do it. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Jason Altmeyer, back talking some NFL and boxing at Legacy Studios in East Liverpool in a minute. Stay with us.